Hala Gonaim is in London along the procession route. She joins us live right now. Hala, thank you for joining us today. Walk us through what we're expecting to see in the coming minutes and hours.
As you just saw, the vehicle procession did just pass behind me here. It's making its way South London to the Islamic Centre of Southwestern Ontario. There will be a public funeral service. Members of the public are invited to attend to mourn together. There will be a special prayer, a janazah, for the family. It'll be led by the imam with the 4 coffins in front of him, congregants behind him. Following that, there will be speeches from relatives, members of the family, as well as religious leaders. And immediately afterwards, the family will be buried at an Islamic cemetery here in London, Ontario. That event is for family only.
Now, that said, there are large portions of today's commemorations which will be open to the public. Talk to us about why that was important for the community to be involved in what we'll be seeing today.
So since this horrific attack on Sunday, there have been several events for members of the community. This includes a vigil on Tuesday that was attended by thousands of people, including politicians. There was a multi-faith march just last night. It actually started at the scene of the memorial site all the way to the London Muslim Mosque, again attended by thousands. But what makes today special is not only are people mourning together, but this is a special prayer that's observed by Muslims. It is for that community specifically. And as we heard from the Imam at the London Muslim Mosque, this is a huge step toward healing together.
It's the message we've all heard, the message that, love conquers hate. And we don't want this to just be another news item that's forgotten soon. We want people to remember the pain that we experience because of hate and to replace that hate with love, to replace that pain with healing.
It'll be incredibly difficult for the Muslim community and the broader community to recover from this tragedy, but they are doing it together. They're mourning together, and they say it's important to do this because it's also encouraging. It's a step forward that they will heal together through love and through change. And community members here tell me that there will be more events for the community, more intimate events that will help with that healing process.
Hala, thank you for this. Hala Gonaim in London. Well, for more, let's bring into the program right now Mohammed Hashim. He is the Executive Director of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. Mohammed, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Listen, I would like to begin here by asking what you've been hearing from community members about today, certainly, but also about this very difficult week.
Well, I think that a lot of people are in a lot of pain. I think what happened over here was just a reminder that this is alive, that hate is alive, and that people need to be aware of it. And I think that people may have felt a sense of safety growing after the number of years, the last few years. But I think that what this happened was just a bloody reminder of exactly how much threat there is out there for hate.
Now, we've seen many Canadians moved by this family's story, Muslim Canadians, non-Muslims. Why do you think this attack has struck such a chord for so many people right across our country?
Well, I think there's a number of factors to that. One of the factors is the fact that the police called it a hate crime right away. And the fact that that was never ever denied to the family or to the community. And I think in many different other circumstances that is often denied. And therefore communities don't have an opportunity to call it for what it is. But this was a moment where I think this is a culmination of a moment as well. This is what is happening over here in terms of the increase of hate and polarity in Canada is not happening in a vacuum. And I think that, when we look at what happened with the discovery of 215 Indigenous children at a residential school and a mass grave that was unmarked, and then seeing the Atlanta shooting, and then all this death that's been around, and now it just ended up in our backyard. And that was, I believe, a moment of shock that all of us who are dealing with the grief of all these different discoveries were just put into.
Mm-hmm. And there's also something, as you say, the sense of safety being shaken. So when you consider the fact that police were very quick to call this a hate crime, how saddened are you by that fact?
I'm actually glad that they called it a hate crime because I've seen what's happened when they don't call it a hate crime. I'll give you for an example. In Quebec in September, an Asian man and an Asian woman were run over by the man ran over one person, went a couple of streets over and ran over another person. Both of them were Asian Canadians. The police called it a hit and run, but the community felt as though that was a hate crime, because why would that person find two people in two different places, hit them, and then run? And that was denied to them. So the sense of victimhood, or even the capacity to heal as a community, was denied them. And therefore, I'm actually glad the fact that the police came out right away and called it a hate crime, which because it allowed everybody, politicians from every single political stripe, showed up at the funeral within 48 hours, dropped everything, and showed up to the community to say, look, we have to acknowledge what's happened here. This is wrong, and we need to be able to bring people a sense of safety and the opportunity to heal.
And not just a hate crime, but an instance of Islamophobia. Talk to us about the prevalence of that in our country and how people can't deny it now in the wake of this attack.
Well, I think it's actually hard to talk about that because we've seen the denial of Islamophobia for so long, and the continuous denial of Islamophobia. And I think that people, the fact is that we've had 6 people shot and killed in a mosque. We had another person who was volunteering outside of a mosque, making sure people going in sanitize their hands and wear a mask, killed brutally in front of that mosque, and now somebody walking down the street. I think people understand that this is a moment where a lot of people are feeling unsafe, and that Islamophobia is real, and that we just simply can't deny it anymore.
So what do you want to see from politicians then? As you know, politicians have agreed to hold a summit before the end of July to talk about Islamophobia, but at the same time, we saw a video that was shared online this past week of someone making racist comments, bigoted comments about women dressed in hijabs walking down his street. What realistically do you want to see from politicians as you talk about tackling this problem of Islamophobia?
Well, first of all, I think that it should be acknowledged that the minister, Minister Chagger said that there's going to be 2 summits, one on Islamophobia and one on anti-Semitism, and I think they're both important. And I think because politicians, government policymakers, bureaucrats need to come together and really reflect upon the policies that they have, both municipally, provincially, and federally, on how to address this. They need to take some ownership of it. They need to hear from community members, different solutions that are going to be brought forward. But I honestly also think that we can't always just run to government for solutions. I'm a bit beyond that. I think that people need to have conversations in their homes, with their families, with their cousins. I think people need to address it directly. I think sometimes either it's in the workplace or within their unions. There's a lot of people who are given a lot of passes for a lot of things that are being said. And I think people need to be able to own up and kind of just confront it, because there's not one solution to addressing hate, and everybody's looking for that silver bullet. But really, we have 37.8 million people in Canada, and we have 37.8 million solutions, because every single person needs to feel it and understand the importance of how to tackle.
So out of this moment then, what are you looking for that would signal to you that this is a moment of change? What are you perhaps not looking for but are afraid of seeing that would signal that nothing has changed?
That's a difficult question to ask, because I think there's a lot of different asks. I think what we need to do is to see just ownership of the problem. Like people taking ownership of the problem, whether that's the government, whether that's the federal government, provincial government, or municipal governments. It's hard to be able to say that one thing is going to change it all, because it won't. We know that to be the case. We've seen this type of violence over and over and over again. The one thing I would like to say is that we need to reduce the amount of polarity in society. And online hate legislation and being able to tackle online hate, which we know is an incredible contributor towards polarism and divisiveness and hatred, and the amount of experience that people are having online it's very pervasive. And I think people need to recognize the fact that it's long overdue, that we need online hate legislation, that we need to be able to lower the temperature of our civil discourse in society, because the amount of polarity is just pitting people against each other. And I think that's what we need to really address to be able to get to the root causes of hate.
Well, Mohammed, this just begins our conversation because we will be speaking to you throughout this day. So I appreciate this starting point for us. So thank you for this.
Thank you for having me.
And that's Mohammed Hashim, the Executive Director of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. Well, let's now go back to Magda Gabrisalasa again. She is part of our team right now in London, Ontario, covering for us the commemorations and the memorials that will be held today. And she joins us right now from where the public memorial will be observed by many. So Magda, describe the scene where you are right now for us.
I'm just going to move out of the way, Michael, so you can see just what's going on. People are starting to show up here. The parking lot is starting to fill up. And of course, we could expect hundreds and thousands of people to show up here, because that is what we've seen all week long at the various vigils and marches that have taken place this week. The community coming together, people from London, but also others that have driven here outside of London to be part of this. We know that the family, when they arrive, will be sitting at the front of this, and the coffins will be up front as well. At this point, the family was having a private viewing at the funeral home, and then they're supposed to start to make their way over here. So it could be some time before that takes place. But we know that, as you can see, the community is really getting behind this family. Earlier, we spoke to, last night rather, Jasmine Khan. She is a family friend, and we asked her about how the family is doing and also how Fayez, the lone survivor, is doing in hospital. Here's more from her.
They're still in shock, and there's still a lot of tears, and there's a lot of pain. At this moment, we're just trying to focus on the young one, and we're trying to make sure he gets all the attention he needs in order for him to heal and in order for him to heal from this tragic event. And we are trying our best to constantly be there for him. He's getting stronger. He's healing, but we don't know what's yet to come, and we're just scared of that.
We know that there's been fundraising efforts to help support him. He is surrounded by his aunt and uncle right now, also family who have come in from Pakistan and Australia to be here and to support him as well, Michael.
Magda, thank you. We'll speak again. Our Magda Gabrisalasa in London. Now, earlier today, I did speak with Salea Khan, and she is also a close friend to a family member of the Afzaal family. And she says that she, like many in the community, is still trying to cope with the shock of what has happened.
There are going to be 4 funerals today. There's going to be 4 loved ones that are going to be laid to rest. For the majority of us, this is unimaginable, unfathomable, and at the moment, there's nothing that we can really say or do except just respect and offer as much love and compassion as we possibly can.
Well, as you say that, I appreciate the fact that you yourself are dealing with your own feelings about this matter. How are you doing today?
It's been exhausting. It's been a very, very rough week. I think it just comes crashing down every single time you kind of turn around and you look, and it's a constant. This is a constant feeling that we're living with. It's a constant kind of an emotional trauma that we are just carrying with us. And I'm saying we because it is a collective community. And when I'm saying a collective community, absolutely the Muslim community is the one that has been targeted and we've been reminded yet again that we don't belong. However, I'm also going to say that my friends, my peers, my colleagues from all of the London community at large have been also deeply impacted by that.
You say it's made clear that we do not belong. Those are such difficult words to hear and certainly strong words to be using today. Tell us a bit more about how you and members of the community are feeling right now about a sense of belonging, or perhaps a lack of a sense of belonging in this moment.
There is the intensity of the support that's coming out from every single corner of the City of London, and by the organizations and by the community members and the churches, the synagogues and the gurdwaras, and it has been phenomenal in terms of letting us feel that we are a part of this community and that we are a significant and relevant part of this community. Having said that, as you yourself mentioned earlier about the fact that Muslim women, because of the visibility of who they are, I don't wear a hijab. I used to, and I took it off, and it's just, for me, it was becoming a little bit more invisible, and not having to deal with those constant questioning looks. I still get those, because although I'm not visibly wearing a scarf, but the way I dress, who I am, the way I carry myself, all of that is still going to let people know that I'm not a quote-unquote Canadian.
Mm-hmm. And yet we have heard politicians step forward and, as you say, community members step forward. Do you at least think that this might be a turning point in the discussion around Islamophobia?
I'm kind of shaking my head, because we've been talking about Islamophobia since 2001. I've been involved with this particular work and dealing with hate crimes forever and more, I feel now. And it's just gotten to the point where we have really good laws and legislation when it comes to criminal code and how it is supposed to be and everything. But in all honesty, the turning or the pivotal point is going to be when we actually start implementing and applying those laws effectively. And I'm using the word effectively because the police can do their job. And I'm going to give shout out to London Police Service for doing a phenomenal work here in terms of right off the bat identifying, keeping their evidence, and making sure that they have charged this person with murder one and labeled it a hate crime, and are right now looking at the possibility of terrorism charges. So they're doing every single thing which is in their power as an entity to support and to do and to bring justice for the family that's been mercilessly just killed. And at the end of the day, though, it will eventually end up in front of the courts. It will end up in front of this discussion table between Crowns and defense. And there will be a judge or a justice, there will be a judge sitting in there. And if they are to effectively and really look at what the criminal code allows us to do and actually apply it and implement it, I will probably say, okay, maybe now is the time that things are changing. But until that happens, I really don't think that we are ever going to not see something like this happen again.
Now, the House of Commons unanimously, they backed an NDP motion to call for an emergency summit on Islamophobia before the end of July. So I'm wondering what your message is for non-Muslim Canadians and to Muslim Canadians in this moment in terms of trying to take some type of good out of what has been such a horrific crime.
Be aware, and I'm not talking about vigilance or hypervigilance. I'm talking about, and again, same old story. I'm sorry I'm sounding so jaded here, but it is, please, for the love of God, get to know the people around you, talk to them, just accept the humanity of another person. They don't have to look exactly like you. They don't have to smell like you. They don't have to talk like you. They don't have to be part of what your in-group is. But please just accept them as other human beings. And I'm not talking about holding hands and singing Kumbaya. That just is never going to work. But just accept other people. Let them walk if they're out for a walk. Let them enjoy their life. Everybody wants safety. Everybody wants to feel that they are safe. And this whole sense of, do I belong or I do not belong, it just really adds on to this deepening sense of isolation and greater anxiety. And we have children and we have generations in front of us. And there is no way that we can really have a prosperous and a thriving Canada without every single person in here being who they are and being allowed to be who they are.
And our thanks there to Salea Khan as she spoke about the impact of today's funerals in London. Well, as we wait for the service to begin, many memorials have taken place right across our country. And for a look and to what Canadians are saying from coast to coast, let's go to Hilary Johnstone right now in Ottawa. So Hilary, take us through how Canadians are remembering the family in other parts of the country outside of London, Ontario.
Well, Michael, there have been vigils and memorials held in at least 24 different cities across this country over the past couple of days. And we know that there are even more vigils that have been scheduled for tomorrow. And of course, that would be 1 week since the 4 members of that family lost their lives. But we want to play a bit of a longer selection now so that you can see what that has looked like and you can hear what that has sounded like. So what we're going to play, this is a bit of a variety from different vigils and memorials that have been held over the past couple of days, starting with Toronto, Regina, Charlottetown, Saskatoon, Ottawa, and then also some scenes from London, Ontario. So we're going to play that for you now. These are vigils and memorials from the past couple of days.
In 11 days, everybody will be celebrating Father's Day, but not this boy.
Tonight, our Canadian Muslim community and our Ummah pray for each other even more. It is okay not to be okay right now.
So, Michael, a small selection there of some of what we've seen across this country over the past couple of days. Some of these people have come together to try and heal, to try and move forward, to talk about how to do that. As you heard from that woman about halfway through that selection, some of this has also focused on that young boy, the 9-year-old boy who, of course, has lost his family and who has been left behind. But as we wait for this public funeral to start in London, Ontario, there are even more vigils that are planned for later this evening. There's going to be one in Ajax, Etobicoke, Milton, and Mississauga. And Michael, there are even more planned for tomorrow in Markham, Pickering, Thornhill, and Vaughan. And of course, tomorrow, Sunday evening, that will mark 1 week since the family in London, Ontario, since 4 members of that family lost their lives.
Hilary, thank you for this. Our Hilary Johnstone in Ottawa. Now, earlier today, I did speak with Dr. Sabrina Ghaffar Siddiqui, a professor of sociology and criminology at Sheridan College. And I asked her why she thinks this tragedy has resonated so deeply with Canadians.
I think that this is a moment of reckoning for Canada. And I think the pain is compounded. You know, the pain and the grief that we feel for Faiz, this little boy, and his sister, a child killed because of hate. You know, it's compounded by the fact that last week we were in tears about the 215 children found in a mass grave, Indigenous children. And 2 weeks before that, the Palestinian children, 67, who were killed in Gaza. So, you know, the grief is, I would say, exacerbated and compounded by the dehumanization of children, which, you know, has been propped up by white supremacist ideology and violence. And we need to call out white supremacy once and for all.
And you have examined Islamophobia throughout your career, and certainly people have been talking about it since this attack. Are we at a crossroads then? You say we need to be tackling white supremacy, but when it comes to Islamophobia, are we right now at a crossroads? Do you believe what has taken place in London will spark some kind of action to combat Islamophobia?
I would have said yes, but we were in this exact same place after the Quebec mosque shooting. And in that time, we haven't seen any policies put in place meaningfully. We haven't seen any commitment from the government. In fact, we have seen more surveillance and, vilifying of the Muslim communities and other communities, racialized communities in Canada. So, I would say that I'm really hopeful that this terrible tragedy is going to lead to something meaningful. But I've seen performative justice take place before, where political parties are just looking for political points. And I'm afraid that might happen again. So I'm here to kind of remind people that we can't just sit back and let people perform their thoughts and prayers and their solidarity without following through with some meaningful policies.
I'm going to get to that, back to that in a second, to talk about the kind of reaction that we've heard politically here. But I also want to talk about women within the Muslim community, because women have borne the brunt of these attacks. We see it with many hate-motivated crimes, that women are the ones being targeted. In this case, do you think this is just the visibility of the hijab or niqab that makes Muslim women particularly vulnerable?
I think women in general are more vulnerable to violence. Gender-based violence is a huge problem in Canada. And being Muslim, and being a woman, and then may I add, being Black, being racialized, being Indigenous, and then also being Muslim or a woman, it makes the situation worse. You carry multiple stigmas in society, and you end up being on the receiving end of hate. So we need to target each of those things separately and together.
Okay, let's get back to the political then, because as you know, Parliament did vote unanimously to support an NDP motion, and this is to have a summit on Islamophobia before the end of July. What do you make of what we heard from political leaders? What do you make of a unanimous vote here to ensure that a summit like this happens?
I think, again, like I said, I'm seeing a little bit of performative justice and, performative allyship going on here. I really hope that this is not just a performance and people really do follow through. I'm very pleased to see people come together and vote unanimously on this. But once again, we've been here before and we haven't seen meaningful change happen. And, don't forget that even though Canada, is well known in the world as, reputation for being peacemakers and peacekeepers, they're complicit in, war crimes in the Middle East and providing weapons that kill people. So I would like to see politicians kind of standing up for truth and justice and following through on some of these promises. And, the oppression that people face and the dehumanization that they face elsewhere is very much related to the oppression and dehumanization people are facing here, which includes Muslim communities, but also Black communities, racialized communities, Indigenous communities.
So concretely, if you could spell it out, what do you want to see in the weeks and months ahead?
I want there to be very, very meaningful, funding and efforts put in place so that we can weed out the racisms and the oppressions and the discrimination and the Islamophobia that we see in schools, in workplaces, in the criminal justice system. It's everywhere. It's structured. It's very much institutionalized. And we can't really hold this one person fully accountable for hate that's widespread. As angry as we are with this 20-year-old, he is a product of his environment. He's a product of white supremacist ideologies that were fed to him. So I would like us to tackle white supremacist ideology that's entrenched in some of these institutions that we are all a part of in order for there to be real meaningful change.
And our thanks to Dr. Sabrina Ghaffar Siddiqui. Well, with that, let's go back to the site of today's public service. Makda Gabrisalasa joins us just outside the Islamic Center in London, Ontario. So Makda, walk us through what's happening now.
See, the hearse have arrived. The procession has come to the public memorial site, and people are really starting to come in at this point. This parking lot is really filling up. I just want you to take a look at just how many people have shown up so far. So I expect that we're just a few minutes away from this getting started. We, of course, are expecting speeches to take place. There will be prayers as well, and the family will be here in the front row. At some point, the coffins will make their way down behind me right up to the front, and we'll be here for about an hour. They expect this memorial to go on for about an hour before the family then makes their way over to the burial site. And we have been speaking to people through, all week long, and one of the people that we connected with earlier was Jasmine Khan, and we had asked her how the family had been doing, and we asked her about the lone survivor, Fayez. Here's more from her.
They're still in shock, and there's still a lot of tears, and there's a lot of pain. At this moment, we're just trying to focus on the young one, and we're trying to make sure he gets all the attention he needs in order for him to heal and in order for him to heal from this tragic event, and we are trying our best to constantly be there for him. He's getting stronger, he's healing, but we don't know what's yet to come, and we're just scared of that.
Now, we're not quite sure if Fayez will be here or if he's still in hospital recovering. We haven't been able to get some clarification on that. But I'm just going to pan over just to let you know and let you see how much support there is for this family in the community right now. We have seen this all week long. We saw it at the vigil where thousands of people showed up. We saw it yesterday in the march to end hatred. Hundreds and thousands of people coming here to show their support for the family. People who live here in London, but also others who have driven from other parts of the province to show their support. I spoke to a man who drove here from Brampton, another one from Milton. Everyone driving, an hour or 2 hours or more to be here to show their support for the family. And so this is going to continue for about an hour, possibly more, depending on how things move along here. And once it wraps up, the family will head over to the burial site. That is a private event. They are asking everybody to stay away from the burial site so that this family can really mourn and grieve together without cameras and without people around them. And it's just going to be the family at that point, Michael.
And as you say, an outpouring of support that you're seeing there on the ground in London, but it's also been the kind of support we've seen right across the country amongst Muslims and non-Muslims in Canada. And earlier, at the end of the last hour, you did bring onto the program a guest who had been in conversation with those who are very close to the family, with family members themselves. I'm wondering if you could go over for us once again what he had to share about that.
Yeah, that was Omar Kamisa, and he is with the National Council of Canadian Muslims. And he's been in touch with the family throughout this week, and he spoke a little bit about how glad they were to get this support. The council really all this week has been calling for a national summit on Islamophobia. They wanted to make it very clear that this is not isolated, that there have been several incidents across this country where Muslim women, Muslim people have been attacked, and they wanted to make sure that people understood that it's not just about offering prayers and wanting to show support by showing up, but they're really calling for action. Of course, we've heard that the government has committed to that summit. Everyone will be looking forward to what will actually come out of that summit that will put a spotlight on hatred and hopefully stamp it out. But, we also have heard from the community that it's not only up to politicians to put an end to hate, it's really up to everybody to have those difficult conversations, for parents to have those difficult conversations with their children, and for everybody to be a part of this so that we don't have to be standing here again, facing a community that is heartbroken by the loss of 4 family members and the fact that a 9-year-old boy is now orphaned, Michael.
Now, I think many people will have questions about how public safety is being handled in this moment outside the mosque, because of course we're still in the midst of a pandemic right now. Ontario just loosening a bit some of its rules just yesterday. Walk us through what has been asked of people as they attend today to make sure that there is a health safety perspective being observed as well.
Absolutely. So people are being asked to keep their distance from each other. If you look around, you'll see people wearing masks as well. So they're really trying to follow the safety rules while gathering, while showing support from this family. And if you take a look, you could see that people really are kind of a distance from each other in the prayer area and just outside of it as well. So everyone here doing their best to stay safe while being here to support this family as they prepare to say goodbye to their loved ones.
Magda Gabrisalasa, thank you. We will speak again. Now, earlier we spoke with someone who knew one of the victims. Hani Shahato taught Yumna Afzaal, the youngest of those killed in the attack last Sunday. And here's what he had to say about her.
I've never lost a student, let alone in this tragic manner. I remember when I first heard the news, I was actually on a Microsoft Teams call with my class. I was proctoring an exam, and it was just bewilderment and shock throughout my body, and trying to remain composed because my students needed me in that moment, and it wasn't their time to know yet. So since then, it's just been extremely painful, a profound pain. She was such a humble girl. The whole family was so humble that she would have been so amazed by what's unfolded in the last few days, from the vigil to the march yesterday to what I'm sure is going to be an incredible turnout today in support of this family. She was so humble, she would have never envisioned such support for her, and that the whole world would be turning towards honoring her family. And humility is just one of her many, many virtues. She was really excellent at anything she tried, including that mural. And she was such a talented student academically, socially. Everybody was her friend. All of her teachers loved her. There's so much to talk about Yumna.
And again, that was Hani Shahato, Yumna Afzaal's teacher. Well, as we wait for the service to begin, we also want to bring into the program once again Mohammed Hashim. He is the Executive Director of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. Mohammed, thank you for staying with us today. I'm wondering what you are feeling right now as we wait for this service to begin. Again, 4 members of a single family, a 9-year-old boy who's lost his parents, his sister, his grandmother. What is going through your mind right now as we wait for the service to begin?
It's really difficult to hear the stories of the family members. It's devastating. I was in Quebec City after the last massacre, the day after, and talking to some of the victims in the immediate aftermath, and just the pain of knowing what they're feeling or going through right now it's absolutely horrible. I know people that are driving from Ottawa who left this morning to come to this, and they'll be driving right back afterwards. People are flooding from across this country to this funeral because this is a moment of sadness that people are feeling, but it's also a moment of anger because for many people, this type of intense targeting we've experienced it before, but this is a matter of life and death to many people because, we've had 6 people who were killed in a mosque. We've had somebody, stabbed in front of a mosque. And now walking through the streets, 4 people were run over. Just the sheer violence of what people are having to deal with right now. It really is touching people at a very difficult way.
And one of the ways in which it's touching people right now is having fear manifested in their lives. We're hearing that from people in London, Ontario. I'm wondering what you're hearing as an active member of the Muslim community yourself. What are you hearing from people across the country about how they're feeling in this moment? Is fear the predominant feeling right now?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think people are feeling very, very scared. I had a friend of mine named Samir call me this morning, and he was telling me about his friends in London, Ontario, who were telling me that their parents were afraid to go out and that the kids are afraid to go out. I think sometimes, the middle-aged folks, we have to put on a brave face and just go into work the way we want it to work. But the people who are feeling frail, the elderly, the young, really take this level of trauma and internalize it in a very difficult way. And I think Islamophobia becomes very real to them. And fear is definitely something that I've heard again and again from people.
Is there anything that can be done right now? We've seen people show up at vigils and memorials, and we're talking about Canadians, Muslim, non-Muslim alike, coast to coast of this country. Is there anything right now that can be done by people to help alleviate the fear that those in the Muslim community are feeling right now?
For me, what's really helped is just a lot of people have just touched and checked in on me. Not touched, it's COVID obviously, but they've just sent me a note to say, look, I'm thinking of you right now. And I think that, just recognizing the pain that I'm going through, that my community's going through, to me is an act of solidarity that anybody could really do. So if you know anybody who's Muslim, who's going through this pain, who has expressed something on Facebook or on Twitter, reach out to them, send them a private note. It doesn't need to be performative. Just let them know that you're there for them and that you want to be there in support.
You and I were speaking earlier, and you talked about how this is a moment of conversation to be had. How do you even begin to have that conversation? If you have someone in your life who is a Muslim Canadian, if you yourself are Muslim, how do you begin to have these types of conversations? Because in quote-unquote polite society, these are things we often don't speak about.
Canada has a reputation internationally for being a place where we live quite harmoniously. And to many levels, that is absolutely true. But I think what this moment is showing, especially not just this moment, but all these different moments that we've had in the last year or 2 years, is that we've suppressed victimhood. And now we're allowing people to express that in a new and different way. So I think that reckoning is happening. And that responsibility falls upon everybody, and it's not just about politicians. And I think that, I think Muslims know what Islamophobia is, and we know what it feels like. I think speaking to whoever you're like, I'm talking about non-Muslims now, reaching out to your Muslim friends and just speaking to them, or just and sometimes that's easy for the Muslim friend to do or not to do, but to allow that space to happen. If you're in a workplace and somebody says this is Islamophobic, listen to them, hear them out, don't just dismiss it, and then just really intently, for non-Muslims, just reach out to your Muslim friends or others and try to just have the conversation to see why is this intense targeting of Muslims happening in Canada? Because it's not like this is happening across the world, it's happening in some different places. But it's happened in New Zealand, and it's happened in the U.S., it's happened here. But in Canada, a place where we cherish to be so harmonious and multicultural, why is there so much blood and violence here? That's a question we have to ask ourselves.
You mentioned New Zealand there, and I'm wondering if Canada can take any lessons in the way that New Zealand dealt with its own violent hate incidents.
There's lots of ways to do so. I think that these summits are a good first step. I agree that we need to bring people together. They need to talk about what responsibility they can take on it. They can come up with some policies that they're going to look at. And there's lots. And there's so much. For example, people don't report hate crimes because they don't feel it's going to go anywhere. People don't report, and this is physically in spaces. Online, people don't even barely report online hate because they have very little faith that anything's going to happen. So I think that for us to be able to change the conversation and to create an expectation of civility, both like in the physical world and online, we need to create a sense of deterrence. And that sense of deterrence will happen when we enforce our laws around hate crimes. And we're just simply not doing that right now.
Mohammed, I want to thank you for this. Again, you and I will speak once again later today. We should point out the fact that the service was scheduled to begin at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. We're now being told that it will be delayed for at least another 15 minutes. But for now, Mohammed, thank you for this. Appreciate the time. And that was Mohammed Hashim, the Executive Director of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. Now, earlier, we also spoke with Nawaz Tahir. He's a spokesperson for the London Muslim community and a member of the organizing committee for today's funeral. Now, he says the outpouring of support from Canadians is important, but he also wants to see Canadian leaders do more.
It started out very difficult to hear the news, to hear that this was premeditated, targeted attack. But what we've seen throughout the course of the week is a tremendous outpouring of support from the community. The vigil on Tuesday night, last night's interfaith march, really the love of the community has really outshone the darkness of the event. And we're so very grateful to the community for the love that they've shown the community. This is a deep scar in our community. Just the circumstances of how it happened, just going out for an after-dinner walk, it's leaving a deep scar in the community, but all of that love really is acting as the ointment to help the healing process of that scar. This family was a family that loved being at the mosque. They loved giving back to the community, and they were just such a happy family to be around, and so generous with their time, with their resources, and the fact that somebody had so much hate inside of them to just want to kill them because of how they look, that's been a tough piece to get through. We're in a war against hate, and unfortunately, sadly, tragically, the Muslim body count is rising. And so it requires the attention of our elected leadership to be united, to set aside their partisan politics, to really attack this problem in our society head on and immediately.
And our thanks there to Nawaz Tahir, a spokesperson for the London Muslim community. Well, let's go back to Magda Gabrisalasas. She's outside the London Mosque where today's public service will be taking place. And again, Magda, just to share with people at home, the service was scheduled to begin at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We're now being told it's going to be delayed. But ahead of the service itself, walk us through what's happening right now, what you are seeing as people make their way to the parking lot outside the mosque.
Well, a lot of the people have already arrived. You can see the parking lot is full right now, full of people. In the center is where anyone who wants to be part of the prayers, there in this center, this is outlined in a way that people are, able to kind of keep their distance. A lot of people are wearing masks, as was asked of the community, while attending this and trying to be safe at the same time. Now, we expect that the family will be seated in these first two rows. We've been asked not to show the family, and that's why we're on this side of the event. At the front is where we expect the four caskets to be placed. That hasn't happened yet, but the hearse have arrived. So the event has been delayed. At first, we thought that would start at 1:30. It would last for about an hour before the family would then move on to the burial site, but things have kind of slowed down a bit here, so we're still waiting for it to all get started. But I can tell you that in this crowd there are obviously people here from London, but others who have driven hours to be part of this event. And I just was speaking to Hakim Shambaz. He is a survivor of the shooting at the mosque in Quebec, and he had this message for the family.
Them all the time, all the way, as we have experience in this sad moment, and to tell him that we are all the time with him and we support them all the time, and we are same family, and we have to face this acts of violence and Islamophobia, hatred, all this, the bad stuff. So we are, here to support them, and we'll be with them all the time.
This sort of shared experience, shared heartbreak that he now has with this family is something obviously he never wanted to share. He said it's important that everybody does what they can to put an end to hatred and violence and Islamophobia, something that we have heard from many organizations calling for a summit on Islamophobia. The government now committing to that, to put together some sort of discussion and plan around that, because this community does not want to be in this position again, where they are mourning the lives of 4 family members lost and killed by hate, according to police.
As you say, 4 members of a single family killed by last Sunday's attack, and the only survivor, a 9-year-old boy, the little son who was injured in the attack but is expected to survive this. What is being said about the little boy by members of the community, Magda?
Well, we've been told that the family really is rallying around him. He has his aunt and uncle around him. Others have flown in from Pakistan and Australia. There was a fundraising campaign that has raised tens of thousands of dollars for him. And the school that he goes to is also really, really supporting him throughout this. I think he is orphaned, but he has now become everyone's son in this community. So I feel like they are going to be looking out for him. Right now, he is still recovering from his injuries. We're not quite sure if he is at the event today, if he will be there, or if he remains in a hospital. But I assume even if he attends, that they will do their best to protect him from the cameras and from the people.
Magda, thank you. We will speak again. Our Magda Gavasalasa from the site of today's public service.
They're still in shock, and there's still a lot of tears, and there's a lot of pain. At this moment, we're just trying to focus on...
Now, that was Jasmine Khan, a family friend who spoke to CBC News earlier today, and also speaking to us today was Salea Khan, who is close to a family member of the Afzaal family. And she says, like many in the community, she is still trying to cope with the shock of what happened.
There are going to be 4 funerals today. There's going to be 4 loved ones that are going to be laid to rest. For the majority of us, this is unimaginable, unfathomable, and at the moment, there's nothing that we can really say or do except just respect and offer as much love and compassion as we possibly can.
Well, as you say that, I appreciate the fact that you yourself are dealing with your own feelings about this matter. How are you doing today?
It's been exhausting. It's been a very, very rough week. I think it just comes crashing down every single time you kind of turn around and you look, and it's a constant. This is a constant feeling that we're living with. It's a constant kind of an emotional trauma that we are just carrying with us. And I'm saying we because it is a collective community. And when I'm saying a collective community, absolutely the Muslim community is the one that has been targeted and we've been reminded yet again that we don't belong. However, I'm also going to say that my friends, my peers, my colleagues from all of the London community at large have been also deeply impacted by that.
You say it's made clear that we do not belong. Those are such difficult words to hear, and certainly strong words to be using today. Tell us a bit more about how you and members of the community are feeling right now about a sense of belonging, or perhaps a lack of a sense of belonging in this moment.
There is the intensity of the support that's coming out from every single corner of the City of London, and by the organizations and by the community members and the churches, the synagogues and the gurdwaras, and it has been phenomenal in terms of letting us feel that we are a part of this community and that we are a significant and relevant part of this community. Having said that, as you yourself mentioned earlier about the the fact that Muslim women, because of the visibility of who they are, I don't wear a hijab. I used to, and I took it off, and it's just, for me, it was becoming a little bit more invisible, and not having to deal with those constant questioning looks. I still get those because although I'm not visibly wearing a scarf, but the way I dress, who I am, the way I carry myself, all of that is still going to let people know that I'm not a quote-unquote Canadian.
Mm-hmm. And yet we have heard politicians step forward and, as you say, community members step forward. Do you at least think that this might be a turning point in the discussion around Islamophobia?
I'm kind of shaking my head because we've been talking about Islamophobia since 2001. I've been involved with this particular work and dealing with hate crimes forever and more, I feel now. And it's just gotten to the point where we have really good laws and legislation when it comes to criminal code and how it is supposed to be and everything. But in all honesty, the turning or the pivotal point is going to be when we actually start implementing and applying those laws effectively. And I'm using the word effectively because the police can do their job. And I'm going to give shout out to London Police Service for doing a phenomenal work here in terms of right off the bat identifying, keeping their evidence, and making sure that they have charged this person with murder 1 and labeled it a hate crime, and are right now looking at the possibility of terrorism charges. So they're doing every single thing which is in their power as an entity to support and to do and to bring justice for the family that's been mercilessly just killed. And at the end of the day, though, it will eventually end up in front of the courts. It will end up in front of this discussion table between Crowns and defense. And there will be a judge or a justice, there will be a judge sitting in there. And if they are to effectively and really look at what the criminal code allows us to do and actually apply it and implement it, I will probably say, okay, maybe now is the time that things are changing. But until that happens, I really don't think that we are ever going to not see something like this happen again.
Now, the House of Commons unanimously, they backed an NDP motion to call for an emergency summit on Islamophobia before the end of July. So I'm wondering what your message is for non-Muslim Canadians and to Muslim Canadians in this moment in terms of trying to take some type of good out of what has been such a horrific crime.
Be aware, and I'm not talking about vigilance or hypervigilance. I'm talking about, and again, same old story. I'm sorry I'm sounding so jaded here, but it is, please, for the love of God, get to know the people around you, talk to them, just accept the humanity of another person. They don't have to look exactly like you. They don't have to smell like you. They don't have to talk like you. They don't have to be part of what your in-group is, but please just accept them as other human beings. And I'm not talking about holding hands and singing Kumbaya. That just is never going to work. But just accept other people. Let them walk if they're out for a walk. Let them enjoy their life. Everybody wants safety. Everybody wants to feel that they are safe. And this whole sense of, do I belong or I do not belong, it just really adds on to this deepening sense of isolation and greater anxiety. And we have children and we have generations in front of us. And there is no way that we can really have a prosperous and a thriving Canada without every single person in here being who they are and being allowed to be who they are.
And our thanks to Salea Khan, who spoke to us today about the impact of the funerals in London. Well, ahead of today's funerals, there have been many memorial services right across our country. And a look now at how Canadians from all walks of life are remembering the 4 family members who were killed last Sunday.
everybody will be celebrating Father's Day, but not this boy.
يستبشرون بنعمة من الله يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل
Tonight, our Canadian Muslim community and our Ummah pray for each other even more. It is okay not to be okay right now.
يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل
And there will be memorials again throughout this weekend following today's funerals. And we should note that organizers of the funerals in London, Ontario say the service is going to begin shortly. So we'll bring you to the public service as soon as it begins. Now, ahead of that, we did speak earlier today to Sabrina Ghaffar Siddiqui, a professor of sociology and criminology at Sheridan College. And I began our conversation by asking her why she thinks this tragedy has resonated so deeply with Canadians.
I think that this is a moment of reckoning for Canada. And I think the pain is compounded. You know, the pain and the grief that we feel for Faiz, this little boy, and his sister, a child killed because of hate. You know, it's compounded by the fact that last week we were in tears about the 215 children found in a mass grave, Indigenous children. And 2 weeks before that, the Palestinian children, 67, who were killed in Gaza. So, you know, the grief is, I would say, exacerbated and compounded by the dehumanization of children, which, you know, has been propped up by white supremacist ideology and violence. And we need to call out white supremacy once and for all.
And you have examined Islamophobia throughout your career, and certainly people have been talking about it since this attack. Are we at a crossroads then? You say we need to be tackling white supremacy, but when it comes to Islamophobia, are we right now at a crossroads? Do you believe what has taken place in London will spark some kind of action to combat Islamophobia?
I would have said yes, but we were in this exact same place after the Quebec mosque shooting. And in that time, we haven't seen any policies put in place meaningfully. We haven't seen any commitment from the government. In fact, we have seen more surveillance and, you know, vilifying of the Muslim communities and other communities, racialized communities in Canada. So, you know, I would say that I'm really hopeful that this terrible tragedy is going to lead to something meaningful. But I've seen performative justice take place before, you know, where political parties are just looking for political points. And I'm afraid that that might happen again. So I'm here to kind of remind people that we can't just sit back and let people perform their thoughts and prayers and their solidarity without following through with some meaningful policies.
You know, I'm going to get to that, back to that in a second, to talk about the kind of reaction that we've heard politically here. But I also want to talk about women within the Muslim community, because women have borne the brunt of these attacks. We see it with many hate-motivated crimes, that women are the ones being targeted. In this case, do you think this is just the visibility of the hijab or niqab that makes Muslim women particularly vulnerable?
I think women in general are more vulnerable to violence. You know, gender-based violence is a huge problem in Canada. And being Muslim, you know, and being a woman, and then may I add, you know, being Black, being racialized, being Indigenous, and then also being Muslim or a woman, it makes the situation worse. You carry multiple stigmas in society, and you end up being on the receiving end of hate. So we need to target each of those things separately and together.
Okay, let's get back to the political then, because as you know, Parliament did vote unanimously to support an NDP motion, and this is to have a summit on Islamophobia before the end of July. What do you make of what we heard from political leaders? What do you make of a unanimous vote here to ensure that a summit like this happens?
I think, again, like I said, I'm seeing a little bit of performative justice and, performative allyship going on here. I really hope that this is not just a performance and people really do follow through. I'm very pleased to see people come together and vote unanimously on this. But once again, we've been here before and we haven't seen meaningful change happen. And, don't forget that even though Canada, is well known in the world as, reputation for being peacemakers and peacekeepers, they're complicit in, war crimes in the Middle East and providing weapons that kill people. So I would like to see politicians kind of standing up for truth and justice and following through on some of these promises. And the oppression that people face and the dehumanization that they face elsewhere is very much related to the oppression and dehumanization people are facing here, which includes Muslim communities, but also Black communities, racialized communities, Indigenous communities.
So concretely, if you could spell it out, what do you want to see in the weeks and months ahead?
I want there to be very, very meaningful, funding and efforts put in place so that we can weed out the racisms and the oppressions and the discrimination and the Islamophobia that we see in schools, in workplaces, in the criminal justice system. It's everywhere. It's structured. It's very much institutionalized. And we can't really hold this one person fully accountable for hate that's widespread. As angry as we are with this 20-year-old, he is a product of his environment. He's a product of white supremacist ideologies that were fed to him. So I would like us to tackle white supremacist ideology that's entrenched in some of these institutions that we are all a part of in order for there to be real meaningful change.
And our thanks to Dr. Sabrina Ghaffar Siddiqui. Well, with that, let's go back to Makta Gabasalasa. She is at the site of today's public memorial where the 4 members of the Afzaal family will be memorialized and commemorated today. So Makta, walk us through what is happening now.
Well, we just got the 5-minute warning. They're about to get started here. We know that there will be speeches, there'll be prayers that go on. I'm just going to let the Mayor of London here. If you have a minute to speak to us, I'm just going to have you in front of the microphone. Share with us kind of what your thoughts are right now as you look behind you and see all the people that have come out to support the family. This is Mayor Ed Holder.
Well, it's I'm not surprised by the thousands and thousands here today. In so many ways, it replicates the vigil we held on Tuesday night, where we had more than 15,000 Londoners and others from away who came to honor this family and to share their grief with us. And then again last night, the thousands and thousands who marched, because we thought it was important to take back our streets, take back our sidewalks, for the little boy who's still in hospital, and for Londoners. That was so important for us to do.
I just want to just point out right now, right behind us, the caskets are coming this way. Mayor, as you see everybody gather there, and you're thinking of the victims of this hate crime that police have said, where are your thoughts right now?
It's beyond words. This is too heartbreaking to see three generations of a family just wiped out like that. We're trying to comprehend the incomprehensible, and none of this makes any sense at any level, anywhere.
They don't know.
And as we bring this family so they can come to rest, London will not be at rest. We are going to carry on as a community, support our Muslim brothers and sisters, and support each other, because we are a community that comes together. We're not defined by this tragedy, but this will make us stronger as a community to continue to do the right thing.
When you say continue to do the right thing, what is the plan? How do you go forward from this to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again here or anywhere across the country?
I probably had that question asked of me 25 times in the last 2 days. And what I would say at this point, this is our time for grief, and we're grieving. In terms of the action plans, what I can say to you very specifically is that our council meets on Tuesday night. and there will be a number of pieces to the agenda that will deal with this issue in terms of some things that we are looking to do as a council at a local level. But it also includes an outreach to our provincial and federal government to work with us. London will be a willing partner and an active partner in this process of trying to stop the hate. And ask me next week about some of the action steps. It's a work in progress. There's no magic solution. If it was, that would have already been done by now. But it takes work from all of the community and all of us together. And the kind of love and outpouring of humanity we've seen in this last week from Londoners is a very strong start.
As you said, this is now a time to mourn and to put the victims here to rest. Behind us, what I can see right now is the caskets are coming around. They'll be passing behind me, I believe, and they'll be placing them right up front. The family is seated in the first two rows, is what we've been told. We're trying not to go to that side of the event because we're trying to give the family some privacy. So this event has started, Michael, and we're going to continue to be here and watch it and report live.
Okay, Magda Garbasalasa, thank you. And again, Magda is at the site of the public funeral that is beginning right now. The funeral for Salman Afzaal, father and husband, Medea Afzaal, mother and wife, their 15-year-old daughter, Yumna, and Talat Afzaal, who is the mother of Salman. And as you can see, the coffins have now been rolled and are being brought to the front of where the service is going to happen. The coffins all draped in Canadian flags. And as we watch this happening right now and wait for the beginning of this service, I do want to bring in Mohammed Hashim, who's the Executive Director of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. Mohammed, a somber moment at this moment in time. What are you feeling right now?
I just saw the Canadian flags draped on the coffins. I think that's incredibly representative of of who we lost. I think what they embodied was a dream, a Canadian dream. They've worked hard, they've studied. Salman was a physiotherapist at a seniors home. These are people who are hardworking, who have put in the time and the work to be able to contribute to this society, and that is who was targeted and killed. And I think that the symbolicness of this Canadian flag over their graves is just something that we all should pause to think about, because that's exactly who we lost, a piece of Canada.
Now, Mohammed, you and I will be speaking throughout this afternoon, but I'm going to thank you for now as we watch the beginning of this funeral service. Again, 4 members of the Afzaal family. We know that they have loved ones who have come from as far away as Australia and Pakistan to be here, to be at the funeral and to support the family members here. And in addition to the Afzaal family, we can tell you there are hundreds upon hundreds of people that have gathered in London, Ontario, just outside the Islamic Centre of Southwest Ontario, to be a part of today's funeral. So shocking and heartbreaking was the attack of last Sunday, and so many hearts broken right now in the community as they come together to mourn. So we will be carrying for you the public ceremony right here on CBC News Network. Again, this is outside the Mosque in London, Ontario. And we will be running this uninterrupted as we now listen in right here on CBC News Network.
Media, please stay on the grass. And everyone, please take your seats so we can start. Please, can you please take your seats so we can start? Everyone, please take your seats. Media, please, in your positions so we can start. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of the Almighty God be with each and every one of you. My name is Jasmine Khan, and I am the President and Chair of the Board of Directors here at the Islamic Center of Southwest Ontario. On behalf of the entire Muslim community here in London, I solemnly and humbly welcome everyone here today. I also want to give a heartfelt thank you for all of your love and support, not for just the Afzaal family and their dear ones, but to all of humanity during this very unsettling times. I would like to offer my deepest and sincere condolences to the family, Allah yarhamhum. I would also like to thank all of the volunteers as well as management from the London Muslim Mosque, the Islamic Center, Islamic Relief, and the Pakistani Canadian Association of London for helping making today happen. I would first like to call upon Imam Mohammed Fuad, the Imam of the Grand Mosque in Quebec City, for the recitation of the Holy Quran with the translation in English done by Dr. Munir Al-Qasim, the Imam and Director of Religious Affairs here at the Islamic Center, who will be saying a few words after.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا ولا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم بل أحياء عند ربهم يرزقون فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم ويستبشرون بالذين ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل لم يمسسهم سوء يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وأن الله لا يضيع أجر المؤمنين وأن الله لا يضيع أجر المؤمنين الذين استجابوا لله والرسول من بعد ما أصابهم القرح للذين أحسنوا منهم واتقوا أجر عظيم الذين قال لهم الناس إن الناس قد جمعوا لكم فاخشوهم الذين قال لهم الناس إن الناس قد جمعوا لكم فاخشوهم فزادهم إيمانا وقالوا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل الذين قال لهم الناس إن الناس قد جمعوا لكم فاخشوهم فزادهم إيمانا وقالوا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل فانقلبوا بنعمة من الله وفضل لم يمسسهم سوء واتبعوا رضوان الله والله ذو فضل عظيم صدق الله العظيم.
I seek refuge in God from the accursed Satan. I start with the name of God, the all-merciful, the compassionate. These are ayat, closely translated for the understanding of all of us as verses of the final scripture to humankind, Al-Quran, from Surah, which we closely translate as chapter, Ayah 169 to Ayah 173. Never think of those martyred in the cause of God as dead. In fact, they are alive with their Lord, well provided for, rejoicing in God's bounties and being delighted for those yet to join them. That is us. There will be no fear for them, nor will they grieve. They are joyful for receiving God's grace and bounty, and that God does not deny the reward of the believers. As for those who responded to the call of God and His final messenger after their injury, those of them who did good and were mindful of God will have a great reward. Those who were warned, your enemies have mobilized their forces against you, so fear them. The warning only made them grow stronger in faith, and they replied by saying, God alone is sufficient as an aid for us, and He is the best protector. Ameen. My dear London community, brothers, sisters, friends, family, and before any of us, my dear sister Talat, my dear brother Salman, sister Madiha, my daughter Yumna. And if you're wondering how come I'm looking to the right, because they are dead. I want to share with you 5 Quranic facts, and I repeat facts, right from the recitation that you just heard and that I tried to translate. Please listen to these facts, 5 of them. Number one, never think of those brothers and sisters as dead. They are very much alive. They are with us. They are listening. They are hearing. Yes, there is a body and there's a soul with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the Almighty God. And by the way, for the knowledge of those who wonder, why did I say Allah in English? Because Allah is the Arabic for God, the same as Dio, Dio, Dios. It's the same thing. So they are very much alive. Number 2, they are rejoicing right now. They are rejoicing while we are grieving. They are happy. Number 3, they feel good for us who are going to join them. Number 4, they are not afraid by the side of God, for they will be rewarded for their faith. And number 5, they now will enjoy real life. I say real life, because this life we are experiencing and we are so happy with is just life as a test run for the real one to come. So Salman, Madiha, Talat, and Yumna, as you are, as I said yesterday, as you are leading us today in your march towards Jannah from London, Ontario, please Enjoy it until we join you in Jannah. Ameen. Ya Rabb al-Alameen. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Munir and Imam Muhammad, for that beautiful recitation. I would now like to call upon Dr. Ingrid Mattson, head of the Islamic Studies Department at Huron College here in London, to say a few words.
Assalamu alaikum. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. This is our shahada. Our shahada means witness. We say it with our mouths. We feel it in our hearts. We live it in our bodies. Islam is not a thing out there, it is what we do. Our shahada is witnessed in our prayer every day, which is a prayer with our whole body. Our shahada is witnessed in our fasting that we completed recently in Ramadan. Our shahada is witnessed in the zakat and the wealth tax that we pay every year for those who are in need. Our shahada is witnessed in our hajj, which we aspire to or inshallah complete once in our lifetime. This family, our dear family, they were witnesses their whole lives to the shahada. As a family, they prayed. As a family, they fasted. As a family, they spent their money lawfully. As a family, they gave their zakat. As a family, they showed each other love and togetherness. As a family, they sought to support the Islamic school with their presence and with their children. As parents, Sister Talaat, she raised and guided and taught her son to grow to be a good Muslim. That was her witness. And Brother Salman and Sister Madiha, they raised their children to be good Muslims, and that was their witness. And they came to the mosque, and they were friends and brothers and sisters to the community of Muslims and to their neighbors, to all of those of any faith. And we hear this witness again and again. All week, people are witnessing to this truth that they, in their whole lives and their whole beings, were witnesses to the truth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses his martyrs because only Allah chooses when and how we will die. Allah chose this family as a family to be martyrs. And for those of you who don't know, the Arabic word for martyr is witness. It means that they are, while they are taking in death, witnessing to their faith. They completed a meal, which was in accordance with what Allah had guided. They came as a family to do something wholesome and healthy, which is in accordance with what Allah had guided them to do. So they, in their witnessing, when they were taken by Allah, and it is only Allah who takes life, when they were taking, they were witnessing in their whole selves. And we pray that not just their deaths, but their whole lives, is a sadaqah jariyah, is a perpetual charity for all of us, so that we too may witness in our families, in our lives, as parents, in education and everything we do, that we are too also witnesses. In our shahada, we say that Muhammad Rasulullah, and he is our guide. He is our guide. And what a blessing that is to have, because we know that Sister Madiha's mother lost her daughter. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam lost 3 daughters who were dear to him, and we know that an adult daughter is so dear to a parent. So we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward her with the special state, Sister Madiha's mother, with the special state of a parent who has lost a child. Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. The blessed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was an orphan. And we know to be an orphan is a very difficult state to be in. Yet it was the state of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that means it is a special and a noble and a blessed state. And Allah has chosen that for young Fayaz. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let young Fayaz grow up in the beautiful example of the Prophet Muhammad and in his challenge and in his difficulty and pain to be able to have all of that mercy for others in pain to grow within him, Ya Allah. We know that the blessed Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw his beloved friends, Yasir and Sumayya, and his beloved cousin, Ja'far, and his beloved uncle, Hamza, all of them killed in the way of Allah. And we know that here we have so many who have lost cousin and brother and friend and uncle. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, reward all of these, all of us here today who have also lost those very dear to us, and let us also benefit from being rewarded in our response as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam responded, which was with greater certainty and clarity about right and wrong and mercy and love. Ya Allah, I ask that. And finally, it is Allah who sent the Quran to the messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that Quran tells us, gives us the name for humanity, and that is Banu Adam. Allah called us Banu Adam, and that is the children of Adam, and those who are the children of a parent are brothers and sisters to each other. The brotherhood and sisterhood of humanity is a fact that Allah tells us, and today and all of this week we've witnessed the beautiful love and mercy and kindness among our brothers and sisters in humanity. Oh Allah, reward them with the best reward for all of their support and love and compassion for us. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Ingrid. I would now like to call upon Dr. Idris Zubair, who is the head of Al-Huda Institute International, to say a few words. Sorry, he will only be speaking in Urdu.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. Sadaqallahul azim. मुझे सिर्फ उर्दू में बात करने के लिए कहा गया था कि यहाँ काफ़ी सारी कम्युनिटी पाकिस्तान की भी है और बर्र सग़ीर की भी है, आप उनसे एड्रेस करें। बाकी इंग्लिश में सभी करने वाले हैं, उर्दू में हमें एक स्पीकर चाहिए था, जिसकी वजह से मैं यहाँ आपके सामने उर्दू में बात कर रहा हूँ। एक मुख्तसर सी बात है जो कुरान मजीद ने हमें समझाया है कि कुल्लु नफ्सिन ज़ाइक़तुल मौत। जो इंसान भी इस दुनिया में आया है या जिसके अंदर रूह है, उसको मौत का मज़ा चखना है। तो जिसके अंदर रूह है, इस मौत ने किसी को नहीं छोड़ा। इस मौत ने अल्लाह के नबी को भी नहीं छोड़ा, अल्लाह के वली को भी नहीं छोड़ा, और उसके मानने वालों को भी नहीं छोड़ा और ना मानने वालों को भी नहीं छोड़ा। फैसला अल्लाह ताला का है। उसी ज़ात ने हमेशा ज़िंदा रहना है, बाकी बका किसी को नहीं है। कुछ मौतें ऐसी होती हैं कि जो यादगार बन जाती हैं और बड़े ज़बरदस्त पैगाम दे के इस दुनिया से रुखसत होती हैं। इनकी चारों अफराद की जो मौत है, ये आज आलमी ज़मीर को झंझोड़ने के लिए है कि क्या अमन का और सलामती का रास्ता अपनाना एक कसूर है, एक गलती है। बिअय्यि ज़ंबिन क़ुतिलत, कौन सी गलती हमसे हुई कि जिसकी बुनियाद पे हमें ये मार दिया गया, हमें ऐसी मौत दे दी गई। तो ऐसी मौतें जो बड़े अमन से, अमान से, सलामती से इस दुनिया से रुखसत होती हैं, वो हकीकत में एक बहुत अहम उसूल पर अमल करते हुए इस दुनिया से रुखसत होती हैं कि ला दरर वला ज़िरार, ना हमने किसी को तकलीफ़ देनी है और ना ही हम किसी से तकलीफ़ उठाने की कोशिश करेंगे। ये एक बहुत बड़ा मैसेज है और इसी मैसेज को अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह मैं ये समझता हूँ कि जितने भी मुसलमान इस मुल्क के रहने वाले हैं वो सभी को कन्वे कर रहे हैं कि हम लोग पुरअमन रहने वाले और दूसरों को सलामती का पैगाम देने वाले लोग हैं। और शायद यही वो चीज़ है जिसका एतराफ़ इस मुल्क की बड़ी क़यादत ने यहीं आके हम सब के सामने, दुनिया के मीडिया के सामने किया है। और ये एक बहुत बड़ा मैसेज है कि इस मुल्क के प्राइम मिनिस्टर, इस मुल्क के हर पॉलिटिशियन और इस मुल्क के बड़े अहम ओहदेदार, ज़िम्मेदार लोग इस गम का इजहार करने के लिए हम सब के साथ शरीक हैं। तो ये एक बहुत बड़ा मैसेज है दुनिया के लिए। तो इन अफराद ने कोई कसूर नहीं किया था, लेकिन बहरहाल एक दुनिया का उसूल है कि अल्लाह तबारक व ताला मौत चाहे तो बेड पे दे दे, हॉस्पिटल में दे दे, या मौत चाहे तो ऐसी जगह पर दे दे कि जैसे इनके साथ हादसा हुआ है। फैसला है अल्लाह ताला का है, हर कोई अपना वक्त लेके आता है और यही वक्त पूरा करके इस दुनिया से रुखसत हो जाता है। अब इनका रुखसत होना हम सब के लिए एक पैगाम ज़रूर दे रहा है कि हम लोग इस मुल्क में रहते हुए अपने आप को मुस्लिम के माना समझाएं कि मुस्लिम कहते किसको हैं और इस्लाम किसको कहते हैं, हमें कैसे जीना है। अपनी तर्ज़ ज़िंदगी से दूसरों को हमने एक मैसेज देना है कि हम लोग पीसफुल हैं। मेरी दुआ है कि अल्लाह ताला इस ख़ानदान को, जिनकी निस्बत रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के ख़ानदान की तरफ थी और जिन्होंने अपने आप को ये भी साबित किया कि हम इस मुल्क की खिदमत करने वाले लोग हैं, इस मुल्क से मोहब्बत करने वाले लोग हैं, अल्लाह ताला इनको कब्र में करवट करवट सलामती से रखे और इनको जितने भी इनके कसूर हैं हम सब की दुआ की वजह से अल्लाह ताला इनको माफ़ करे और इनके दर्जात बुलंद करे। मैं इस ख़ानदान के अफराद से एक रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा कि अगर आप वाकई इनसे हमदर्दी रखते हैं और वाकई आपके बड़े अच्छे काम हैं इस ख़ानदान के, और वो ये है कि एक ट्रस्ट बनाएं इन्हीं के नाम का और एक अच्छा सा इंस्टीट्यूशन खोलें जिसमें एक मॉडरेट इस्लामिक एजुकेशन हो, जिसको हमारी आइंदा नस्ल इस तालीम से आरास्ता हो कि एक बेहतरीन पैगाम दुनिया को दे सके कि हम वो लोग हैं जिनके बुज़ुर्गों ने इस मुल्क में ये शहादत दी थी और इसकी ज़मीन के अंदर, इसकी जड़ों में हमारे बुज़ुर्गों का भी खून शामिल है। अल्लाह ताला हम सबको, आप सबको सब्र की तौफ़ीक़ अता फ़रमाए और आप सब की दुआएं इनके हक़ में कबूल फ़रमाए। सुब्हानक अल्लाहुम्मा व बिहम्दिका अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्ला अंता अस्तग़फिरुका व अतूबु इलैक। अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू।
Thank you, Dr. Idris. I'd now like to call upon Mr. Raza Bashir, the Ambassador of Pakistan to Canada, to briefly say a few words.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here before you to reiterate the condolences from my Prime Minister Imran Khan, from my Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, from the entire nation and country of Pakistan, which stands shoulder to shoulder with you in this hour of grief, in this time when our hearts are bleeding because of the atrocity that has befallen this wonderful, marvelous family. And the very fact that their coffins are draped in the beautiful Canadian flag is an apt testimony of the fact that the entire Canadian nation stands with them, the leadership, the community, people from all religions. We are very thankful to the Honorable Prime Minister, to all leaders of different parties, our MPs like Mrs. Salma Zahid and her colleagues, who have truly come together and have really galvanized the country as well as the international community. Jazakallah, thank you all very much. And our prayers are with the family and friends of the martyred and with the child who is recovering, inshallah. May Allah grant him a full and speedy recovery. May Allah grant the martyrs the highest station in Jannatul Firdaus, and may Allah enable us to cope with the grief that has befallen us, and may Allah make it a means of promoting interfaith harmony and communal harmony and true peace. Thank you all very much. Jazakallah.
Thank you, Ambassador. I would like to now call upon Dr. Ali Islam, the maternal uncle of Madiha Salman, to say a few words.
In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. Last Sunday evening, 4 fountains of sweetness were taken away. 3 generations taken too soon. The loss to our family immense. In schools, universities, and nursing homes across Southwest Ontario, there are hundreds of lucky people who felt the gentle, unassuming characters of our loved ones. Over the past week, we have turned to our faith to help us navigate a new reality and to help us heal. The outpouring of support we have received from Canadians and from across the world has confirmed the potential of absolute innate goodness inside humankind, irrespective of color and creed. The expressions of raw emotion, the prayers, the quiet tears, the messages of comfort from people we know and from people that are complete strangers. It has been the first step towards finding a way to heal. We are not alone in our grief, our sleepless nights, our survivor's guilt. Our family will be forever appreciative of the commitment by countless volunteers, paramedics, police, hospital staff, government officials from Canada, Pakistan, that have pulled together communities across the nation. I'd like to give a special thanks to the brave officers of the London Police Service, the volunteers from the London Muslim Mosque, Islamic Centre, MAC Centre, NCCM, Islamic Relief, the City of London, Human Concern, and the Public Health Agency of Canada, who've provided us with much needed support. As this week has progressed, we realized that our extended family was much larger than we could have ever imagined. Many people have asked us what they can do to help. I ask you to be examples of love and compassion. I ask you to take the time to learn from someone who doesn't look the same as you. I ask you to inspire others with your affection. Be humble, be true, be persistent, be creative, be brave. Shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you land among the stars. As long as we are alive, the memory of our family will be inside us. We trust that Allah will embrace our departed in His infinite love, where they will know no sorrow or pain, where they will rejoice in the mercy of the Creator. Ameen.
Thank you, Dr. Ali, for those beautiful words. This now concludes the ceremony portion of today. We will now be praying Zuhr prayer, known as the noon or early afternoon prayer, that will be led by Dr. Munir. Following that, we will proceed directly with the Janaza prayer, or the prayer for the deceased family, which will be led by Sheikh Arj Anwar, who is the acting Imam of the London Muslim Mosque. Please note, we will not be praying Sunnah. Following the Janaza prayer, the family will be heading to the Islamic cemetery for the burial process. We ask that you please respect the family and do not follow the procession. Only the family and close friends will be attending. As these prayers are completed by members of the Muslim faith, I respectfully ask all others to please make their way to the right side, past the cameras and the hearse into the open parking lot that's on my left and your right. If you can please make your way there while we proceed for the prayers. We will take a few minutes to get organized. For those who are praying, please try to fill up where the X's are marked on the pavement. We'll also have volunteers to help with this process, especially for those in the soccer field. Thank you all again for attending and for your support, and we wish you all the peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Kamal Siddiqui, your mother is waiting for you at the front of the building. He's 12 years old.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح.
الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Before we start, I was told something that I forgot to mention. You know, not only did Salman, Madiha, Talat, and Yumna they did not only get the status of Shaheed, but they had the distinct honor. Both Madiha and Salman were Sayyid. They were direct descendants of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So I needed to mention that, inshallah. So we'll hear the iqamah and then we will start Salat al-Dhuhr.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala as-salah. حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
دائما أبدا لا إله إلا الله. اللهم أحسن وقفتنا بين يديك ولا تخزنا يوم العرض عليك. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله. اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تباركت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام.
We'll be praying the Salatul Janazah for the Afzaal family. We're honored to be praying for them. They were, as mentioned by the others, from the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ. That's an honor for them, and it's an honor for us to pray for them. Salatul Janazah, the prayer of the funeral, is a prayer that is prayed standing. It does not involve any bowing or prostrations, does not involve any ruku or sujood. It is 4 takbirat, 4 statements of Allahu Akbar. After the first statement of Allahu Akbar, you raise your hands while saying Allahu Akbar, tie your hands and recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Then the second statement of Allahu Akbar, you raise your hands. And after you tie your hands, you recite the Salah on the Prophet ﷺ, send peace and blessings and salutations upon him. This is the Salah Ibrahimiyya or Durood Sharif. Then you do Allahu Akbar again the third time and you tie your hands. And that is when you pray for the deceased from the du'as of the Prophet ﷺ. Or if you don't know those du'as, you make du'a in your heart from what comes from your heart. Then you say Allahu Akbar and you tie your hands again the 4th time. After which you make du'a for yourselves for the ummah at large. And then we will do Assalamu alaikum to our right side, Assalamu alaikum to the left side. After the prayer, I'm going to go back up on the stage and make a dua together, a communal dua together afterwards. Please stay there, stay where you are to join me in that. Make sure that your rows are straight. استووا الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر اللهم اغفر لي حينا الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله Please join me in the prayer, the dua. Please say Ameen with me as we pray for this family. What I'm going to recite are the du'as of the Prophet ﷺ that he used to recite for those who are deceased. Allahumma ighfir li Salman wa Madiha wa Talat wa Yumna. Allahumma arhamhum wa afihim wa afu anhum. وأكرم نزلهم ووسع مدخلهم واغسلهم بماء وثلج وبرد ونقهم من الخطايا كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس وأبدلهم دارا خيرا من دارهم وأهلا خيرا من أهلهم وقهم فتنة القبر وعذاب النار. O Allah, forgive Salman Bhai, Sister Madiha, Auntie Talat, and our dear Yumna. O Allah, have mercy on them, overlook their flaws, and wipe away their sins. O Allah, honor them with a grand entrance in paradise and make their grave comfortable for them. Cleanse them with water, snow, and ice. Rid them from the blemishes of sins like a white cloth is cleaned of dirt. Give them a better house than what they had here, a better family than what they had here. Save them from the trial of the grave and deliver them from the punishment of the fire. Allahumma ighfir li hayyina wa mayyitina wa saghirina wa kabirina wa dhakarina wa unthana wa shahidina wa ghaibina. Allahumma man ahyaytahu minna fa ahyihi ala al-islam wa man tawaffaytahu minna fa tawaffahu ala al-iman. Allahumma la tahrimna ajrahum wa la tudillana ba'dahum. O Allah, forgive those of us who are alive and those of us who are passed away. Forgive our young and our old, our men and our women, those among us who are present and those who are absent. O Allah, when you give us life, let us live in submission to you. O Allah, when you take our life, take our lives in faith and submission to you. O Allah, don't deprive us of our reward for our patience and due to our sorrow. And don't let us go astray after their departure. Allahumma anta rabbuhum wa anta khalaqtahum وأنت رزقتهم وأنت هديتهم للإسلام وأنت قبضت روحهم وأنت أعلم بسرهم وعلانيتهم جئنا شفعاء لهم فاغفر لهم ذنبهم يا رب العالمين. Oh Allah, you are their Lord. You created them, you provided for them, you guided them to Islam, and you took their souls. You know best their private and public matters. We are here as intercessors, as advocates for them, so forgive them their sins. Allahumma innahum ibaduk, banu ibadik, banu imaik, كانوا يشهدون أن لا إله إلا أنت وأن محمدا عبدك ورسولك وأنت أعلم بهم. اللهم إن كانوا محسنين فزدهم في إحسانهم وإن كانوا مسيئين فتجاوز عن سيئاتهم. اللهم لا تحرمنا أجرهم ولا تفتنا بعدهم. O Allah, they are your servants, the children of your servants. They used to bear witness that you are the only one worthy of worship, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is your servant and messenger. You knew them best, O Allah. O Allah, if they were doers of good, then increase them in goodness. If they were wrongdoers, then overlook their sins. O Allah, don't deprive us of our reward for our patience and our sorrow, and don't put us to trial in such a manner after them. اللهم إنا سلمان ومديحة وطلعت ويمنى في ذمتك وحبل جوارك فقهم من فتنة القبر وعذاب النار أنت أهل الوفاء والحق اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم فإنك أنت الغفور الرحيم. O Allah, Salman, Madiha, Talat and Yumna are in your care. So save them from the trial of the grave and deliver them from the punishment of the fire. You are the one who keeps his promises. You are the truth. O Allah, forgive them and have mercy on them, for you are the most forgiving and the most merciful. Allahumma inna ibnana Faiz qad asabathu musibatun wa bala. Allahumma tajidhu yatiman fa'awih. O Allah, our son Faiz has endured unspeakable tragedy. O Allah, he is an orphan like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. O Allah, protect him and support him just like you supported your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. اللهم أعنه ولا تعن عليه وانصره ولا تنصر عليه وامكر له ولا تمكر عليه واهده ويسر الهدى إليه وانصره على من بغى عليه رب اجعله لك شكارا لك ذكارا لك رهابا لك مطواعا إليك مخبتا أواها منيبا رب تقبل توبته واغسل حوبته وأجب دعوته وثبت حجته واهد قلبه وسدد لسانه واسلل سخيمة قلبه. O our Lord, support Faiz. Don't let anything stop him. Help him. Don't let him lose. Plan for him, not against him. Guide him and make it easy for him to follow the guidance. Help him against whoever wrongs him. Our Lord, make him someone who is always grateful to you. Make him someone who always remembers you. Make him someone who always fears you, is always obedient to you. Make him someone who is always humble in front of you. Make him someone who always returns to you. O our Lord, accept his repentance and wash away his sins. Respond to his du'as and make him a firm Muslim. Fix his tongue so he speaks the truth. Guide his heart so he can cope with this tragedy. And remove all hatred and resentment from his heart. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب ربنا إنك جامع الناس ليوم لا ريب فيه إن الله لا يخلف الميعاد. Our Lord, do not let our hearts deviate after you have guided us. Bestow upon us your mercy. You are the best of the ones who gives. Our Lord, you will surely gather all mankind on the day of whose coming there is no doubt. God, O Allah, you never fail your promise. رَبَّنَا اغْفِرْ لَنَا وَلِإِخْوَانِنَا الَّذِينَ سَبَقُونَا بِالْإِيمَانِ وَلَا تَجْعَلْ فِي قُلُوبِنَا غِلًّا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. Those who came into the faith after them said, Our Lord, forgive us and our brothers. Forgive us and our brothers and sisters who preceded us in the faith, and leave no malice in our hearts towards those who believe. Lord, you are indeed the most compassionate, the most merciful. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Our Lord, give us the best in this life and the best in the next life, and deliver us from the fire of hell. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. Allah sends your salutations and blessings upon the Prophet ﷺ and the family of the Prophet ﷺ, just like you sent your blessings and prayers upon Ibrahim and the family of Ibrahim. Ameen, ameen, ameen.
Thank you, everyone. This concludes the day. I want to thank everyone for coming out. Your love and support means a lot. I want to thank our guests, our speakers, our politicians, mayor, MPs, MPPs, city councilors, our friends. A special thank you to our volunteers, for without them this day wouldn't have happened. Thank you to the police, the paramedics, and if I missed someone, I truly apologize, but thank you for everyone, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And so concludes the public funeral for 4 members of the Afzaal family, Salman and Medea, their daughter Yumna, who is only 15, and Salman's mother Talat, who is of course also grandmother to Yumna and to the surviving 9-year-old boy. The public ceremony is now over and now moves to a private portion, as the bodies will be brought to the Islamic Cemetery of London, and where they will then be interred at that location. Now, as we have been watching this unfold in London, Ontario, of course this follows the horrific attack, a hate-motivated crime as described by police, that did take these 4 members of one family in London, Ontario. So for more, we are now bringing into the program Mohammed Hashim, Executive Director of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. He has been with us throughout this day. Mohammed, thank you for being with us once again. First and foremost, your thoughts on the service that we just witnessed.
Well, that was a very moving service. I think even just listening to the Quran for being played for so long for Muslims across Canada, that will serve as a point of healing. It's not often that you hear that much on TV or on radio or anywhere other than at a mosque. So being able to hear it here across Canada, I think will help serve a moment of healing for everybody. I think the family's statement was incredibly generous. I think they talked about bringing together unity in Canada. They talked about how they have a deep sense of just commitment to the country and to a sense of inclusivity and togetherness that was just incredibly generous for people who have just faced such atrocity. And I think the last thing is just, there's a 9-year-old boy who was left alone. And I think that this country and this community and this family are looking towards him to be able to see how we can all support him. And I hope that, I think this may be the start of a new journey for him, but I hope it's not the last time we talk about him either.
Mm-hmm. You know, as you and I have been speaking throughout this day, ahead of the service and now after the service itself, we were talking about the importance of this moment as being a launching point for important discussions. What type of discussions do you hope emerge from such a horrific tragedy?
I think people need to think about just how dehumanized Muslims have been made. And that means how we villainize them in the movies, how we talk about who belongs as a teacher, as a judge, as a police officer in certain Quebec, in certain provinces. And I think that these are ways where we've diminished the humanity of Muslims, and I think every level of government needs to think about how they can do that, from the education system and different provincial governments, thinking about how do we incorporate a sense of belonging for Canadian Muslims, so that not just Muslims hear that they belong there, but other people, everybody hears that Muslims belong here. So there's a lot of work to do, and that goes from governments to corporations to unions to filmmakers, TV producers, to journalists, and to your local grocery store people who are serving and are gaining or giving respect to people. I think it all starts with individuals, and we all have to take responsibility.
Mohammed, I'll leave it at that. I do want to thank you once again for being with us throughout this day. It's been an important voice to have on our program today, so thank you for this.
Thank you for having me.
And that's Mohammed Hashim, Executive Director of the Canadian Race Relations Foundation. Well, with that, let's now go to Magda Gabrisalasa, part of our team that's on the ground right now in London. And she was there where the public funeral took place, just outside the Islamic Centre of Southwest Ontario. Magda, any reflections at this point?
Well, there's so much to think about. We heard the prayers for the Afzaal family, the victims that are lost, but we also heard about Faisal, who is the lone survivor, the 9-year-old who is still recovering from hospital. We heard a lot about the support that the community has shown for him and for the rest of the family and the friends over this last week. And we heard about the family members themselves. We heard from Matia's maternal uncle. She's the 44-year-old who is the wife of Salman and the mom of Yamna and the daughter-in-law of Tariq. And we heard from the uncle that this has been a week where there have been many sleepless nights, and they're filled with grief, but he also had a lot to say about the support that's been shown. Here's more from him.
This hated act must be stopped right now, and we no need for this event in this quiet country, in this good country, where all people can live together, and we have to say stop the Islamophobia and hatred.
Okay, that was the wrong clip there. That was Hakeem Chabaz, I believe, who was one of the victims or survivors of the Quebec Mosque shooting. I believe that was the clip, if I heard that correctly in my ear. But right now, I want to just pan over just to show you that everybody here is just lining up on the side here to bid this the victims farewell. The funeral procession is getting ready to take off once again. The caskets are in the hearse and they'll be heading to the burial site. The family members want that to be a private event, so everybody has been asked to stay behind and not to follow the procession to the burial site. That is a moment for the family to grieve and to be together and to be alone, away from the cameras and away from the large crowds that we have seen over this last week. They have been grateful for the support that they've seen, but this is a time for the family to be together, to be alone, and to grieve the 4 loved ones that they have lost. Michael?
Magda, thank you for this. Our Magda Gabrisalasa in London. Now, we will continue to have coverage throughout this day, but as we go to break right now, some of the images of happier times of the Afzaal family, Salman, Madia, Yumna, and Talat, buried and memorialized today. Their names now being shared as Canada mourns their loss after that horrific attack last Sunday. Stay with us.